Fear is deeply rooted in the unknown. It stems from uncertainty about potential future pain or harm. When the path ahead seems treacherous, we become paralyzed by all the possible dangers. Our minds are built to predict. Historically, this ability helped ensure our survival by identifying potential threats. But excessive worry about hypothetical worst-case scenarios can be mentally taxing. The ultimate unknown is death. Though we repress it day to day, fear of the end of existence crawls beneath surface anxieties. If we trace fearful thoughts back far enough, they often link to death in some way. How? It can be illuminated by asking a series of why questions to get to the root of your fear. Death. Public speaking taps into fears of embarrassment and social ejection. The primal mind associates this with expulsion from the tribe, inability to find a mate, and ultimately, death. Wealth worries on some level signify fear of starving. Approaching strangers holds traces of ancient caution toward hostile outsiders from one's own tribe. Much of our fear is exaggerated by the ego and mind. It tries preserving itself by avoiding any potential threat to continuity. But resisting life's currents creates disharmony. Attempting to orchestrate a future immune from all dangers is impossible. That is the beauty of life, a dance between the known and unknown. We suffer more imagining hypothetical problems than experiencing actual difficulties. Fear shrinks our horizons, denying the fullness of each moment. Even as our modern circumstances become safer, our anxious minds find new dangers to fixate on. When we realize fear stems from conception of threats rather than present reality, it loses restrictive power over us. We can name uncertainty without being controlled by it. By easing resistance, we open to life's excitement alongside its risks. While fear paralyzes, action liberates. Movement and progress toward meaningful goals help alleviate anxiety by releasing dopamine and calming the overactive amygdala. When we set aims and take steps to achieve them, our eyes naturally make lateral scanning motions. This movement sends electrical signals that help regulate the amygdala, the brain's emotional center responsible for fear responses. In essence, action stimulates connections between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. This quiets excessive reactivity, providing relief from fear. Therapies like EMDR harness this effect using bilateral types of stimulation. Additionally, working toward a purpose triggers dopamine release. This feel-good neurotransmitter eases feelings of worry and dread. With each increment of progress, we reinforce chemical rewards in the brain to associate action with pleasure. Interestingly, potential threats actually compel us more urgently to act than incentives. We are 3 times more motivated to avoid feared outcomes than to pursue pleasures. Our evolutionary programming prioritizes escaping harm over seizing opportunities. This means we can harness the energy of fear as fuel for action instead of succumbing to paralysis. When anxiety arises, redirect it toward productive goals. Let it power perseverance and ignite inner fire to overcome challenges. Rather than passive pleasures, purposeful action also builds enduring confidence. With each fear faced and milestone achieved, we expand our comfort zone. What once seemed impossible, we gain mastery over. We cannot banish fear by resistance, only by surrender. When we stop fighting anxiety and instead allow ourselves to fully feel it, fear loses its control over us. Avoidance and suppression provide temporary relief at best. Fear persists as long as we reject it. Like quicksand, struggle sinks us deeper while surrender floats us above. By breathing into discomfort, we can create space around emotions. Practice welcoming the physical sensations and thoughts without pushing them away. Acknowledge fear's messages without grasping them as absolute truth. Notice where in your body you sense the fear most intensely, as tightness in your chest or stomach, tension in your shoulders, shallow breathing. Deep breathing exercises help release those areas. James Nestor, an expert on human breathing, describes, "Breathing is a technology. Inhalation has been developed by the body as a mechanism to fuel our movements and feed our brains. In contrast, exhalation serves the opposite. It calms us. The heart slows down. A simple yet effective practice is to have exhalations longer than your inhalations. Here, we calm the mind and body, transitioning into a parasympathetic state. Techniques like this have evolved over ages and have been used by various spiritual cultures and traditions. Only recently has science begun to shine light on its effectiveness. While our breathing techniques can provide immediate relief from the grasps of fear, it's crucial to also address its root cause. Delving deeper, we recognize that fear's tenacity often stems from the very construct of our identity, our ego. As you lean into your fear, identify points you can exaggerate through visualization. The more you immerse yourself into its depths mentally, the more you can weaken its grasp over you. Your mind cannot tell the difference between what is being perceived via the senses or the mind's eye. The sensory experience that is achieved, real or not, can help you grow and learn. Moreover, when you exaggerate the fear mentally, be it through extreme sounds, visuals, or sensations, you build resilience. This heightened state of preparedness would then mean it requires something more intense to unsettle you. Understand, when we deeply fear something, it means we resist the flow of life. In this case, it's a balance of harmony and discord. Our resistance stems from our attachment to certainty, what is known, what may further maintain our sense of I, ego. Wisdom is when we may accept the dance between the two poles of order and chaos, to be one with it and surrender to nature's way. Surrender is a letting go process. We release any destructive attachments, create an openness, form a trust and confidence in something greater than ourselves. In this case, it'd be in the divine, for what is impossible to man alone is possible with God. And if we cease carrying the burden of fear and uncertainty ourselves, our solace may be found by releasing it to the One, the divine, the powerful. Ego manufactures our fear. You see, ego is a fabrication of the mind. The mind would be unstable without some sort of central base to form an I-ness if it weren't for this intangible thing we call ego. Therefore, ego is the source of our fear. Why? Because it is a conglomeration of memories and thoughts which provide it an identity. This identity is what is threatened when death is at stake. Fear is constantly at bay for the ego's own survival or cessation. Embracing fear does not mean we become fearless, but rather we become more alive, more complete. What stands in the way becomes the way, as Marcus Aurelius once said. We may finally be at flow with life's current. When fear arises, having an automated system empowers response over reaction. Establishing a routine framework minimizes the mental energy spent addressing fear. Create your own personal framework for working through fear as it emerges. This might involve meditation for detachment, journaling to unpack irrational thoughts, breathing practices to lower stress physiology, or affirmations to remind yourself this too shall pass. Systemize the order you engage these tools when afraid, rather than grasping randomly. Build sequences that resonate and commit to following them each time the grip of fear sets in. End with reorienting action aligned to your purpose. By making your response predictable, you short-circuit fear's control over attention. Processing becomes more reflexive over time, freeing awareness to remain steady and undistracted. Of course, adaptability matters too. Certain varieties of fear may require specialized approaches. Finesse your system based on lessons from experience. The ultimate goal is building mental muscle memory. Just as athletes drill routinely with specific exercises, condition yourself to respond to anxiety with disciplined routines. Fear feeds on chaos. Systems create order. Fear distorts thinking. By identifying and correcting irrational narratives, we deny fear's control over perception. Notice fearful thoughts as they arise and stare them down rationally. Follow this protocol here to rewire your logic around them. Detail the fear. Explain why we feel this fear. Explain the flawed logic. Correct the flawed logic. Explain why this correction is correct. Reframing anxious thoughts and emotions puts them in perspective. We short-circuit exaggerations by the fearful mind and open space for rational wisdom to emerge. Each time we walk through this process, we pave neural pathways of objectivity and calm reactivity. Gradually, rationality becomes reflexive. When all is said and done, fear is just another state of mind we can learn to shift and transcend. By consciously redirecting focus, we can transform our inner experience. Recognize that consciousness possesses inherent malleability. Neuroplasticity allows ingraining new connections that weaken fear's hold and strengthen calm. When afraid, return to the power of breath. Inhale peace, exhale tension. Anchor in the present rather than spinning narratives. Bring awareness to your senses and immediate surroundings. Rechannel nervous mental energy into creating. Move the body and dance, cook a nourishing meal, work on a craft, express yourself. Release through action. Pleasure is a pathway beyond fear when mindfully savored. Entertainment, nature, friendship, music, prayer. Delight cleanses fear's presence by raising vibration. If resistance persists, accept this too shall pass without judgment. Struggle intensifies fear, self-compassion releases it. You are more than any emotion. Fear convinces us we're helpless and at its mercy. But in truth, our perception creates reality. We deny fear's dictatorship through the power of knowledge and its application. The light of awareness dispels the darkness. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca.